As I sit down to meditate and starts going deeply, I'm observing the whole sansar. And this is not just a sansar. It's something that is changing all the time. Physical change would be still understandable. But the same sansar that I'm seeing outside, I'm perceiving at my mind level. And mind, like a foolish child, wants something from this sansar. And if it was only one thing, that also would have been pardonable. The sansar is moving, and yet we want to jump in it and come out with beautiful pearls, a solid pearls, beautiful pearls that we can hold on to forever. How foolish is this child called Shranik? And Shranik, the name, the body, his whole existence is part of this physical sansar. It is not separate. So the same properties of the sansar fall onto the Shranik also. Sansar is not a solid entity, as it was taught in Newtonian physics. After the theory of relativity by Einstein, everything changed. Time is changing, space is changing, everything is changing. And we have a proof every day. People are born, people get old, people die. There is not a single place where there is no change. And yet, foolish child called Shranik keeps on looking at this sansar and trying to make some solid gains out of it. Shranik itself, just like the rest of the sansar, is a temporary name given to a temporary phenomenon. Sansar, including you, is a temporary phenomenon. But in sansar, we need to have fixed names. So the names are being given to this individual phenomenon. We all are like whirlpools. Whirlpool would not exist without the water. Whirlpool is a temporary appearance. We as a human being are part of this sansar. And on top of that, we have given names to this body. And based on this wrong belief that even the body is permanent, we have created the whole structure called mind. An apparatus to shoot the arrows of awareness. We keep on shooting based on our likes and dislikes. If I like something, I will keep on throwing my attention to that. If my choice, if I am looking for beauty in this world, I will look at only the things that I like, call beautiful, and I will neglect the rest. The divisions happened in my mind. The duality happened in my mind. Because of my likes about beauty, I divided the world into beautiful and ugly. Whether it is a person or an object or a situation, I'm dividing the world subconsciously. And yet out there are no divisions. Only when I put or apply the attribute called beauty, suddenly the whole world is divided into beautiful and not beautiful. If my liking is the money, I will divide the world into rich, not so rich, and maybe outright poor. Divisions happened. So this mind of Shrenik has its own likes and dislikes, and millions of them. Doesn't matter. And this likes and dislikes divides the world. So the physical duality outside is not the cause of our suffering. Our suffering is because of the dualistic mind. And this dualistic mind foolishly has been running after its goals. And someday, this whirlpool, this phenomenon called Shrenik will disappear without gaining anything. You are running after the objects of pleasure, decided by you what is this object of pleasure. But then everybody is running. Everybody is doing exactly the same thing that you're doing. And invariably, frictions always happen. If your goal in the life coincides with other people who have the same goal, you become friends. If your goal happens to be focused on an object and another person also has focused his or her desire on that, then there is competition, there is friction, and that person becomes your enemy. Again, we divide the world into friends and enemies based on commonality of our desires. It's no surprise people who love to drink hang out with people who love to drink. People who don't drink, they fall out little by little. Everybody has a deep sense within them what they want out of life. And based on these likes and dislikes, we create friends and enemies also. So these are the vrittis and vasanas. And based on these vrittis and vasanas, we keep segregating the society. And of course, the same phenomenon extends to everything else. If I am a vegan, I like veganism, I would want to divide the world into the people who are vegan and people who are not vegan. Again, imposition, superimposition of our ideas and our beliefs onto the society to divide it. Because person who is not vegan is still a person. Likes and dislikes, disregards this commonality among all the life forms. And this is where the meditation is helpful. As Shranik might be doing all these things, as your ego is dictating and forcing you to run into the society and keep on chasing and choosing, there is some another entity which is looking at it. That is the idea of meditation, to rise higher and just become an observer of this meaningless, useless activity that your mind is involved for the whole life. This sansar is a battleground. Every mind, every ego keeps on shooting bullets towards the objects of raga and dvesha. Raga means love, dvesha means hatred. So what you like, you run after. What you don't like, you run away from. And from this elevated platform of the awareness is looking at this battleground. The whole meaningless life that exists at the sansar level. Because if you did run and if you did achieve something meaningful, meaningful means something that will stay with you forever. Something that you can say that this is your achievement. Fine. But who is achieving? You run after $1 million and you build a house of $1 million. You can say, yes, this is my achievement. But whose achievement? Of your ego, which itself is a conjured up phenomenon. This is your presumption, the collection of your likes and dislikes makes this phenomenon happen. And that's why we are different from each other. Because your likes and dislikes and my likes and dislikes are different. Looking at the whole maze called sansar, it's a web from which people don't seem to be able to escape. And if it was a web created by a third entity, it was understandable. This web is created by one's own mind. And in this web, We create our own web and we get caught in our own web. Likes and dislikes are ours. Why blame the sansar? So meditation is all about realizing. Dismantle your mind because it is after something that is totally futile. Whatever your achievements you call achievements will last till you die. Because Shrenik, the phenomenon, has a temporary existence and it's going to disappear. And all these likes and dislikes and frictions and anxieties and grief and hatred and jealousy, violence, all this will keep on haunting him for the whole life. Is this the life we want to live? Our vision that we have and that we utilize to look at this sansar is faulty. There is something wrong with our vision itself. So the deeper states of meditation, where there is an entity, a formless entity, which is able to look at this whole mess called sansar from an elevated platform, silently, patiently. And at that point, the Shrenik, the phenomenon, along with its whole sansar, becomes remote. And the consciousness surfaces. A consciousness, an independent entity, a pure, indivisible entity of pure existence. At this level, there are no eyes to divide the society. There is commonality, there is non-discrimination, there is universality, there is fairness, there is democracy. This is where the root is of everything that exists. Everything has the same freedom to exist. Whether it is rich or poor, both have right to exist, and they do exist. Beautiful and ugly, they both exist. At existential level, there are no differences. So realize this. Your own likes and dislikes is the cause of your own suffering. Meanwhile, this beautiful world is passing by. It is time to elevate yourself. Build a scaffold into your soul. And from this scaffold, look what your mind has been doing for all these years. Let it go. Let it submit itself to this pure, divine consciousness. Rest of your life you spend in the worship of this beautiful entity that not only is the fact, because everything exists at existential level. Everybody is the same. You and me and your neighbor and my neighbor, and even the earthworms and the ants and birds and butterflies, we all are one. This oneness that will filter down into you from the consciousness will bring peace and harmony, love and friendship for all, respect for all, eliminating or superseding all these differences that your mind had created. Mind will rebel, but let it submit to this highest entity of all, the origin of all, the Advait, the consciousness. Respect it, bow down to it, worship it, and bring it into every word you speak, every action you perform. Keep him in every person you deal with. See him in everyone. And that's when you learn the nectar of life. That is the ultimate descendants of godliness on this earth. Have a good day.